FY 2022 was the year when digital and innovation went deep for the Indian tech industry. But there are surely few sectors and growth drivers that stood out, making it a remarkable year. Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Tech Talks with NASSCOM Insights. This is the sixth roundtable discussion we are having on the recently launched NASSCOM Strategic Review Report, FY 2022. The strategic review report talks about the growth drivers that accelerated the Indian tech industry. To discuss more on these growth drivers, I am joined today by my fellow panelists. Joining me for the same is Diksha Nerurkar, Research Practice Lead, Edge and Cloud, Vandhna Babu, Senior Analyst, ER&D, Prerna Buckshee, Senior Analyst, GCC, and Nirmala Balakrishnan, Research Practice Lead, IT BPM and Industry Trends. Welcome, ladies, to this discussion today.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
So let's start today's conversation with my first question to Vandhana. If you could break the ice on few of these growth drivers, I think that will be really nice for us to set the context for the whole discussion.
Sure, Naman. And thank you so much for the question. So, if we look at the few growth drivers for the tech industry in the past year, in this financial year, and as you've rightly pointed out that, digital and innovation has gone really deep in the Indian tech industry. So a few growth drivers, if we look at it, would be that how digital tech has really penetrated across the companies and how digital revenue now forms a significant portion of the overall revenue. And contracts on the other hand as well, they have a significant digital component, and some companies are signing really long-term contracts due to the digital nature of the contracts as well. And thirdly, there has been over 1.5x increase in R&D investments by these various tech companies in various areas in the digital technologies, such as cloud, connected mobility, quantum computing, 5G, etc. And fourth point is that, patents are also now being majorly filed in emerging digital technology. So if we look at the patents filed in the emerging tech in India between 2015 to 2020, we see that these numbers are over 85,000 patents. And lastly, we have also increased in the product platforms that have showcased innovation and as well as, solved critical consumer needs as well. So in the past year, we have seen AI and cloud platforms, which have gained a lot of prominence. And, with respect to sectors, fintech, as usual, remains a very favorite sector where, where platforms have emerged in large numbers. So these are some of the growth drivers, if we can see, for the tech industry. And we have seen digital penetration going really deep into the tech industry in the last year.
Capability building through acquisitions, strategic partnerships, and expansions, particularly during the pandemic, has been a key strategy to gain digital and domain capabilities, strengthen and expand geographic reach, and enhance customer relationships and trust. Nirmala, I want to ask you this question: how digital capability building has helped organizations, and especially with respect to the customer relationships and trust, and also the geographic reach?
Thanks, Naman. As you rightly pointed out, over the years, companies have been building and strengthening their digital capabilities through various strategies, prominent among them being acquisitions, partnerships, and expansions. I will quickly give a brief overview of how these three have fared during the year. First and foremost, acquisitions. It is actually basically, if you look at the acquisitions that were in 2021, it was a record year with around 232 plus acquisitions, which included outbound, inbound, and domestic. And that is actually 2 times growth over last year. Overall, the major investment areas for these companies included areas like cloud, digital engineering, CX, cybersecurity, big data analytics. And specifically, if you look at the companies, technology firms placed early bets in emerging growth areas, while PE investors focused on acquiring scale and creating global digital focused platforms. if you look at new age digital platforms and startups like Byju's and Academy, Flipkart, we have seen that they were on an acquisition spree last year and acquired altogether there was an acquisition of more than 180 plus firms. And to mention a few, Byju's already has around 11 acquisitions in their kitty and Academy 9 and so on. Second key strategy to build capabilities was strategic partnerships and collaborations. Between your service providers, customers, your startups and academia, basically your whole ecosystem. What we have seen is peer-to-peer partnerships between tech companies and specialists that has actually gained credence last year. So for example, Zoho, a specialist in products, has a partnership with TCS, the tech behemoth, with which helps them actually expand Zoho portfolio of applications to global enterprises. Similarly, you have tie-ups between Innovisor and HCL and many such examples. Another kind of alliance we have seen is with academia for training the employee base, innovation, R&D across areas of emerging technologies. For example, HDFC Bank has plans to partner with over 50 technology companies and business schools to tap emerging fintech areas, starting with IIT Bombay, IIT Roorkee. So these are some very effective industry academia partnerships which I would like to highlight. Other kind of alliances is structured open innovation programs between corporates and startups. Example is corporates offering access to their platforms to the startups, leveraging startups for internal challenges, conducting hackathons or integration, co-innovation, and joint go-to that they work on, strategies that they work on. The last strategy, mostly for digital capability building, is actually to expand to new markets and setting up innovation centers. This is basically more to access local talent. One of the key reasons is also to access local talent. So basically, it would actually include expanding to competitor and nearshore locations to access skill and expertise. In India, if you say, it would be expanding to tier 2, tier 3 locations, again, to access the talent pool that is available, and setting up innovation centers for advanced research and customer access. Over the year, last year, we have seen lots of examples to specify or quantify this. So, for example, Genpact has set up a new center in a tier 2 location, Warangal in Telangana. TCS is opening co-innovation and advanced research centers in Amsterdam. So all these are so if even in terms of local hiring, HCL has hired over 1,000 technology professionals in UK. So these are some examples that companies actually look at, strategies that they look at to build their digital capabilities. So throughout the year, we have seen these trends emerge, and this is, I guess, going to just become stronger and stronger going forward.
Right. And I think, Nirmala, in your response to my question, I particularly saw emphasis on two terms. So one was platform and second was as a service, right? So these two things, I think I want to stay with these two terms, and I want to get Prerna into this conversation. So Prerna, in the year that has gone by, we've seen mass adoption of platformization of tech and the increased prominence of everything as a service. Could you please elaborate a bit on how these two trends have facilitated the increased growth of the tech industry? And maybe you can probably quote some of the reports from NASSCOM, because they've done a lot of research and work in this particular domain. So I think that will be really useful for us to understand.
Right. Sure, Naman. That's a very good point, Naman. In fact, as rightly pointed out by Nirmala, the last year has actually been there's been a lot of buzz about platformization and everything as a service. In practice, the fact that domestic tech revenue has grown 1.2x between FY 2019 to 22 entails amplification of the end user consumption market as well, to the extent that now India is predominantly one of the fastest consumers of technology in the world. So I would like to highlight some key anchors that corroborate this trend. Firstly, both at an enterprise and industry level, digital adoption and transformation are well and truly underpinned by platformization. In fact, so much so that in 2021, as per a NASSCOM Avasan survey report, 70% of Indian enterprises had increased their budgets for digital investments, which is much higher than their global peers. The pandemic further induced companies to not just spend on, but in fact ramp up investments in digital adoption and transformation. Secondly, the role of the government as an adopter and enabler in creating India's robust public digital platforms is truly exemplary. As a pioneer of low-cost inclusive digitalization, 3 of the largest public digital platforms in the world, namely Aadhaar, UPI, and CoWIN, hail from India. In fact, there are many more such prominent platforms such as Arogya Setu for tracking COVID-19 cases, DigiLocker, a digitization online service, etc., which have been elaborated in detail upon in our strategic review report 2022. Moreover, open digital ecosystems, like Nirmala also rightly pointed out, present an attractive opportunity for India to create notable economic, societal, and governance impact in areas such as health, agriculture, education, law and order, etc. And thirdly, like they say, Naman, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Similarly, we have seen all the factors that I mentioned before translate into augmented consumer adoption. In fact, this is further substantiated by the rapid growth witnessed in the everything as a service model, be it software as a service, platform as a service, or infrastructure as a service, as well as the swift pace at which verticalization is gaining momentum. Hence, all of these indicators combine together with India's rich demographic dividend and the relentless push for the Digital India initiative, underscored by the rapidly growing numbers on public digital platforms, augur extremely well for establishing India as a digital-first nation and shaping the decade.
So Diksha, as Prerna just mentioned some of the platforms that have been pretty useful, and they're playing a significant role in, as we say, the shaping up the decade. So would you also be able to share some case studies with us which can help us understand more of these growth drivers?
Yeah, Naman, thanks. I'll share some use cases. I think those will be more relevant. And will connect to what each Nirmala, Prerna, and Vandhna have said. Again, lots of technologies, lots of use cases. So I'm going to focus on 2 primary technologies and then probably close with the others. First, of course, cloud. In cloud, I think while there are many areas, many use cases, I want to focus on FinOps, which is cloud economy, and also cybersecurity. I think, in my opinion, you can't talk about cloud without talking about security. So FinOps, again, is one area where a lot of enterprises will need to invest. As cloud environments become more and more complex, right? And not only are they expanding across the organization, but they're also penetrating deeper into each of these departments. Companies are investing multiple and different kinds of cloud, public, private, etc. So that environment is getting more and more complex, and so enterprises must have a system where they're able to track the expenses on cloud. And if that is not there, then there's a very good chance if you're not in control of cloud cost, then they could spiral out of control. So FinOps plays a very important role here, and that is one area, one use case where I see a lot of enterprises investing in. Second, of course, is cybersecurity. I won't go into the details about that because it's quite clear to everybody why security is important, given all the experience that we have seen in the last 2 years. Today, even hackers are playing a role in influencing the Russia-Ukraine war, right? So at that level of sophistication in attacks we're seeing, so investing in cybersecurity solutions will be paramount for every enterprise across all verticals. But one area that I want to focus on is the metaverse, where I think cloud will play a big role. And we've seen few of the leading companies, Infosys, TCS, I think, and Tech. They've already made announcements about their investments in metaverse. And I think there the importance is to make sure that there is near zero latency, right? Because it's almost a real virtual world, there has to be no latency, and that's where cloud will play a big role. But I think the form of cloud will change. It will be more of edge computing and distributed cloud. That is what I think is one major area that I see emerging in the near future. Again, related to cloud, automation is also plays a big role. And here I want to take the example of the telecom industry, right? They are doing a lot of investments in automating their network and managing the network, right? And on top of that, they're also using technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning to detect network faults or any anomalies that may be happening. So those are some of areas of interest in cloud that I see, growing in the future. The second technology I want to focus on is the emerging area of quantum computing. We actually done a recent report on quantum, right? And here also again, cloud providers will play a big role because they have the infrastructure and they have the scale. So what I see happening is cloud providers will supply the infrastructure and customers in turn will use that infrastructure to build their quantum algorithms, test it, run it, and analyze it. And India as a nation is also taking taking a lead in this area, right? The government of India, I think in 2020 and 2021, the budget, they had announced an investment of some 8,000 crore rupees in quantum space. Right? They want to invest that over the next 5 years. So it's a strategic level technology, at least for India. Other than that, we have institutions like ISRO and DRDO also doing R&D in quantum. And I was reading an article where ISRO has kind of achieved sort of for the first time demonstrated what they call it as free space quantum communication, right? And that is likely to be very useful when you're using satellites to transfer data, right? Encrypt data and transfer it, especially for strategic level purposes. That is that. And from a company perspective, right? And again, here Prerna also mentioned about, sorry, not Prerna, I think Nirmala mentioned about partnerships. Here also you will see partnership between peer-to-peer companies. So for example, Honeywell has partnered with Cambridge Quantum and they have a joint venture which is called Quantinum. Like Cloud Continuum, it is Quantinum. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it Quantinum. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but here I think what they're going to do is have Honeywell's hardware expertise, and Cambridge I think will bring in the software, and together they're wanting to build a new full stack quantum business. So we're going to see a lot of that happening as well. And I think Samsung is another example that we featured where the Samsung Galaxy Quantum 2 that is embedded with quantum cryptography technology. Right? So that is another emerging area. So quantum is an area of interest for, I think, the technology industry also. Other than that, I think very use cases are in the space of Industry 4.0, right? In the manufacturing space, where you're seeing the convergence of cloud, of course, IoT, edge, AR, VR in digital twins. So that will anyways continue. But one area that I am curious about is how, in India at least, we will leverage additive manufacturing or 3D computing, right? But from a sustainability perspective. Because normally when you are constructing something, for example, buildings, or when you're demolishing buildings, there's a lot of waste that gets, right, that goes directly into your landfills, either because we don't have sufficient recycling solutions, or maybe the capacity is insufficient, right? So I see additive manufacturing playing a fairly important role in helping with the ESG and sustainability goals. So that is one area I'm actually curious to see how it evolves in India.
Right. I think this is really interesting what Diksha you had just shared, and thank you. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today. So with this, we come to the end of today's discussion. Thank you, Nirmala, Prerna, Vandhna, and Diksha for joining us. Stay tuned for more insightful roundtable discussions on the NASSCOM Strategic Review with NASSCOM Insights YouTube channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. Till then, it's goodbye from everyone here at NASSCOM Insights. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.